used to be there's the metal crowd and then there's the people who listen to pop, but now it's quite blurred, which is a good thing from a music listening standpoint. Of course, people are listening to more variety, and that has been through the help of social media and streaming platforms. But also, it does mean that people are buying less music. Like, it's very rare that people are going into, like, well, the days of, like, HMV are kind of dead now, really. It's either you get it straight from the artist yourself or you're streaming. How do you think that, I don't know, have you noticed that with, like, your own band, like putting out merch or, like, your own music?
I'd say, like, now, like, because we've only started really, like, releasing stuff in the last couple of years,
yeah,
we haven't even really been that concerned with physical sales, because it's another overhead that you can't really afford as a band when you're starting out, because especially if it's a single release can cost you, like, upwards of $2,000 all in. So, like, I suppose you're having to try and toe the line, because you can't just constantly honestly think it's not a good decision unless you have, like, a huge following and guarantee that you're going to sell enough of that to make a profit. Then there's not much point, which then obviously means that you have to rely more heavily on streaming and merch. But with the way that streaming exists currently, you're not going to make all your money on that, so you do have to rely on, like, merchandise, particularly, which is why you see a lot of bands focusing so heavily on merch nowadays. Like, While She Sleeps are a great example. When they were crowdfunding for their album You Are We, they got so, and they put that straight back into making a business. Things called, like, Sleeps Brothers or something, and they're basically run as, like, a separate business where they just do, like, clothing and merch. And I can guarantee they're making more money off that than they probably would ever really see on streaming, because what was, like, I think it's like one t-shirt at, like, a tenner is worth, like, 20,000 streams or something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah,
anyone listening, just
ridiculous.
Actually think
Like,
about that for a second. Really, like, if you buy a t-shirt from some of your kind of local artists, whatever, that's worth tens of thousands of listens on Spotify or, like, iTunes. That's a lot.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, literally, if you want to support your friends who are in bands, the best and most direct way you can do that is just by buying some merch. If you're not going to go to a show, if you don't have the time or anything, just buy some merch, because a lot of the time they're going to get more money from that merch than they even would from playing a show. Because especially being a small band, until you get to a point where you can start charging a booking fee, you are relying entirely on whether a promoter is going to give you a cut of ticket sales. Like, I remember distinctly, there was one gig we played, was with After the Burial in Satan's in Manchester, and I think we brought, like, 20-30 people, which is pretty good for, like, a local gig. And I think we made, like, 20 something quid off ticket sales, but we brought our first merch run and we made, like, a couple of $100 off that. So literally, for, like, smaller artists, buying merch from them can basically be what they would get from doing, like, 6-7 shows sometimes. So it's the best way to support people now. I suppose it's an important thing to consider, especially, like, if you are, like, a smaller artist, you need to have your head on when it comes to, like, merchandising and stuff like that, because that's the best way to exist in the market at the moment.